My name is Betty Ramsay, and I've been working as a physiotherapist for almost 30 years. And in that time, I've seen a lot of people who've had exercises to do. They might have been given them by a physio, they might have been told to be more active by the GP or another doctor. And often people have good intentions, but it doesn't always work out. So it might be starting off and then it fades away. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution. So things can be good in the beginning, but it's hard to keep it up. So what I'm going to go through now is a few questions that you might ask yourself that we're hoping will help you to get the physical activity side of things into your life and keep it going. So a great place to start, and this one is so important, is looking at why. Why are you going to be more active? And what's in it for you? So we know the benefits of physical activity. We know there's lots of benefits for your health, but what about the benefits for you day to day and the benefits for you in the future? And we often talk about this as an investment in your future. Things that you do now will have a big impact on your quality of life now and going forwards. So think about all those things that you would like to do. So some people talk about they would like to be able to keep going out and seeing friends. Being independent and living in the place you're in now is an important one for everyone. Some people talk about they like to keep in touch through hobbies or interests or clubs they might be involved in, or perhaps gardening or travel when things open up. All these things, you need to have a level of physical function that allows you to do it with enjoyment. So really thinking about why. And then the next thing that we'll look at is what will I do? And when we look at what we're going to do, there's lots of options. So we'll give you lots of resources and links to look at exercises you can do at home. You could also look at walking. That's a great form of exercise. So other people choose to go to the gym or a pool or join an exercise group. So if that's not for you, there's lots of things that you can do. And if that is for you, give it a go. If you're not sure, you can experiment and see what suits you best. But starting with a small amount is important. We want you to do something that feels enjoyable and achievable. So not something that makes you feel exhausted and you come home thinking, I'm never going to do that again. So you could set goals. For example, you might say, I want to go for a 10-minute walk 3 times in the week, if that's a challenge for you. If that's too easy or too much, you adjust it accordingly. We know from the research that people who write down their goals are twice as likely to achieve them. So you might get a piece of paper or a journal, write it down and stick it to the fridge, and then you'll be reminded of what to do. So in the beginning, remember that no amount is too small. That's important. Some movement is better than no movement, and no amount is too small to get started. You might also ask yourself, what strengths do I have? So when we talk about strengths, there are different areas. Sometimes people find it hard to work out what their strengths are, but it could be strengths in your mind. So such things as being determined, perhaps being a good organizer, or perhaps being good at planning. If you're not good at any of these, don't worry. There's always a place to start. So it might also be something like a change you've made in the past. So perhaps giving up something that wasn't so good for you, or taking up something that was good for you. Strengths can also be where you can go for a walk. So in your local community, are there nice places you can walk? Also people in your life. Have you got people in your life who would encourage you to be active? So saying it out loud and saying what you intend to do is good. And might also be people who would join you. So those are all things that are strengths that you can draw on when you look at making these changes. Another important thing is what will get in the way. So this one's usually easy for people to answer, and people will tell us such things as there were other things I would rather do than exercise, or perhaps they have pain and it's really important to manage the pain by not doing too much too soon. Other people talk about the weather. It's too hot or cold or too windy or too wet. And it's important to have a backup plan. So a what if plan. So if things don't go ahead the way you thought they would, what can you do instead? So it might be exercising indoors with one of the resources or exercises that we can suggest for you. Or it might be go walking on a different day, Or some people, when things open up, go walking in the shops. If it's wet outside and they have a shopping centre, they could walk in. Another favourite thing we hear from people, or maybe not favourite, but another thing we hear is, I just can't be bothered, or I thought I'll do it later. And I think that procrastination is a very common one. I'll do it later. When you have this, it's important to remember that feeling all day that you should do it, but not doing it is not a good feeling. And often we think, I'll do it later. I should have done it by now. It gets to the end of the day and I might feel too tired. So the great way to get beyond that is just to get out and do it. And remember that you'll feel better after. That's an important thing. You'll feel better physically and you'll feel better mentally because you know you've done it and achieved something. So all those things are great things to remember, to get on and do it. So I will feel better after. If you tell yourself that, that can be a motivator to get out. So the next thing to consider, you might get started and things are going well, but how will I keep this going? There's different methods you can use to help yourself stay on track. And one that people use is to use a calendar and mark out on the calendar when you've gone for a walk or when you've done exercise or been to a group. So you could put W for walk or E for exercise, A for aqua, whatever it happens to be, and you can look back on the month and see how you're going. Other ways are to plan. It's really important to plan what you're doing. Rarely does it just come about that you think, I'll get up and get out now. So planning is good, to look in your diary and block out the times, think I'll go for a walk on these days this week, or I'll do my exercises on these days. And when you're setting the goals of what you will do, it's important to feel confident about the goal that you set. So if it was to go for a walk 3 times a week for 10 minutes, you want to feel at least 7 or 8 out of 10 confident that you could be doing that. So all these questions, why am I doing it? That's really important, really important. And think of yourself in the future. And this one, how do I want my future self to feel? I think that might be it. What do I want my future self to feel like? The things that you can do now will have a big impact. So it's an investment in your future, and you want to look back thinking, I'm so glad I made those changes and became more active because I can see the changes in my life now. So good luck, get started, and think about all those questions to help you keep on track.